And Charlo is the biggest fight between 160 and 168 division. Is that fight coming?
When I first started training Caleb, I'm gonna tell you, they had his opponents out. I started training him in the summer of 2022. The opponents that he told me was Darrell first, Charlo second, Benavidez third. And if he wins all those fights, he gonna get the Canelo rematch. Obviously, you know what happened. He wound up fighting Darrell first, Benavidez second, and no Charlo fight ever happened. So I know he was looking for the fight. I know they got history. I know they had the altercation, but I have no idea. That's something you would have to ask Charlo and his team because I know Caleb wants to fight. Um, I don't negotiate his fights, but I know he wants to fight. But I think there's some things going on the business side, and I think Charlo is trying to get himself together, in his personal life before they take the fight. But I think Caleb might have to look elsewhere because I don't you don't want to be on hold, with your own career. Caleb is 32. You know what I mean? He needs to make his fights now. So I don't know. I think that would be a great fight, and it is the biggest fight right now. But I mean, in the division, because Morrell and Benavidez left, but for whatever reasons, we can't get it. So I really don't know why, what's going on. But I think it's more something that somebody would have to ask Team Charlo, not Caleb, because Caleb is down to fight. I know that for a fact. Like before I even trained him, he said, Coach, my opponents are already picked, and here they are. Never forget the conversation. So when people always ask me, like, what's up with Caleb's opponents? And I'm like, you got to ask them because he was already told he was going to fight, and he already agreed to the 3 fights when I first started training him. They just haven't happened in that order. He got 2 out of the 3, but I don't know what's going on with that.
Mm. FaZe the Great, thank you for the $2. Do you want to see Keith and Spence? Keith
Um,
already came with a big KO
I
against
want to
Brock
see.
Jarvis.
I don't have a relationship with Keith Thurman. I don't know him, but I do have a relationship with Errol. I just want to see Errol get healthy and get whatever he want out of boxing. If he want to keep fighting, he can keep fighting. If he don't, then he don't. I don't think Earl is interested in the Keith Thurman fight. Personally, it's not like, again, I'm not speaking for him. I don't pick his fights either. But I've heard him say several times that, he just don't care for Keith Thurman as a person and he don't want to give him a payday. I heard him say it publicly in a lot of interviews. So I don't think nothing has changed with that. But if they were to fight, it's a great fight. But Earl got to get back healthy and see what's going on with himself. And then somebody will have to ask him that.
Is that a good fight for Earl coming back? Keith Thurman?
I always thought that Earl would beat him at his best because I just thought he was a bad style for Thurman, who moves a lot. Earl was a serious pressure technician when he was right. But Earl's been off for a while, so I can't really say. I don't really know, to be totally honest. It's hard to say. But there's certain kind of fighters that's more affected by layoffs than others. So I would have to see how Earl looked, see how he was coming through camp before I could say. Because if he's not at his best, it's a difficult fight because Keith Thurman is like he's very unique. He's like a moving power puncher. So you gotta be careful you don't run into something with a guy like that. So I don't really know right now. I will have to see Earl in the gym, see him spar, see a whole camp, and then be able to tell you how the fight would look.
Now, is that just due to experience or just like, obviously the traumatic experiences that Earl has had, from the car crash to the last fight with Errol Spence?
It's just everything, man. You mean the last fight with Terrence Crawford?
Right, my bad. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
that was
Yep.
a tough fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's been off 2 years since that fight. He
Yep.
was off a year before that fight. So that's one fight in 3 years. He had the out of the ring incident. Um, Sometimes lifestyle just catch up with you. Earl is gonna be 35. You know what I mean? If he's not already 35. So um, it's another thing. You know what I mean? Like um, usually, if you're a clean fighter, which Earl is, you're a clean fighter. that's when you start to, you know what I mean? That's when it starts to slip. And I know people might say, well, there's guys that's doing it at 38, 39, and 40. Well, they're special. That doesn't mean that, you know what I mean, everybody can do that. You know, there's like a little bit of a line where guys start to slip. And just because there's some outliers to that, and there's guys that are special that could go to the 37, 38, like the Crawfords and Usyks, the norm is you start slipping in your mid 30s. And I'm
Hell
not
yeah.
saying Earl is slipping or not. I'm just saying that, like, sometimes it's not just an intricate reason. Sometimes it's just age. Sometimes it's just life. Sometimes it's just, you know what I mean? Like, just the natural course of events.
You can't
Like, I,
expect them to perform in their 20s.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, when I first started training fighters 15 years ago, I was in my early 30s. I could beat a lot of them running. Can't beat them running now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and it wasn't just like one date that I just woke up and I just couldn't beat them no more. It's a gradual process where you just look up like, okay, wow, I'm not as fast as I was. You know what I mean? And fighters go through the same thing. They're human beings, and everybody just thinks that they're not supposed to have a drop off performances. You don't perform the same way every day in your prime. So past your prime, you definitely not going to perform the same way. So I don't know. It could be a lot of things. Again, I just want Earl just to be healthy and do whatever he wants to do for himself in his life. You know what I mean? And if it's fighting Keith Thurman, that's fine. If not, then hopefully he'll get another opponent. And if he decides not to fight, you know, I'm happy for him also, man. Earl had a real good career, man, and he had some tough fights. So we got to see. Maybe you can get Earl on the show one day.
Yeah. Yeah.